Hey guys, it's Danny. Welcome to another Truth or Myth episode. I have some gear with me today. I saved a lot of your suggestions for the Myth and Truth episodes from the past as well. So I want to get through as many as possible because these are all sent by you guys. So really quick before we start. This video, together with this entire series, is sponsored by repotme.com, who offers you everything you could possibly need to take care of your orchids. From potting mixes to pots, fertilizers, accessories, and pretty much everything in between. They have everything you need, plus a few other stuff for houseplants as well. I will link it down below to their website. Feel free to check them out at any time. I'll also tell you what my favorite products are, which I still continue to use or I really love. So you have everything you need below in the description. And with that said, let us start with our first myth. Which one should we start with? Alrighty, Fran is asking, supermarket phals should be repotted when you buy them. Truth or myth? And well, at this time I don't really have any more phals in bloom because it's summer, but here we go. Here is a supermarket phal. The answer to the question is truth. Keep in mind though, this is a personal opinion, like most of the things on this channel, but I do try to be impartial as much as possible. Yes, I do believe brand new orchids, no matter if they're supermarket purchased or nursery purchased, I do believe they need repotting. There are a few reasons why. First of all, and especially with either show orchids or supermarket orchids, they typically have been in the medium for maybe at least a year, 2 years, maybe even 3 years. Have you noticed that when you purchase orchids, they are already in bloom, they look fantastic, they look established? Yeah, that's because they are established. And to reach that point, especially to bloom, the orchid needs a lot of time. So most often than not, that medium is pretty old. So it's kind of breaking down and becoming very acidic. It's not going to last any longer before it starts to become too acidic and starts to affect the roots. So a great rule of thumb would be to repot these orchids sooner or later. You don't have to repot them the moment you go into the house. You can enjoy the blooms a little longer if the orchid is in bloom and you don't see anything suspicious in the medium, but sooner rather than later, when the flowers are done at least, you should repot your orchid in fresh new medium just to make sure that everything is okay with the roots and you don't wake up one day with gone roots just because they got burned by the medium. Gail is asking, is it true that Cymbidiums only bloom 2 years after they have been separated and repotted? That is false. I'm personally not a fan of generalizations because theory is not the same as practice sometimes. Yes, maybe theoretically, for an orchid to completely grow and bounce back, it does take around 2 years, and Cymbidiums are not the only ones. Some Cattleyas, which only bloom once a year, when we divide them, they might go through a little bit of a shock, and in their first year, they kind of just need to recover, and then in the second year, they're all established and able to bloom. But see, that's the theory. And the practice is, what if you set back the orchid again? What if you have something in the medium that attacked the roots and it's continuously set back? What if you just didn't water in time in the first year? What if? So I personally don't like generalizations like that because it kind of creates a sort of false hope or false expectations nonetheless. And even if you do everything right, you don't really know if that cutting is mature enough. Maybe you obtained a division from a still immature plant, or maybe a back bulb. Back bulbs can take a lot of time to establish and grow to maturity. It's all very relative. So yeah, sometimes after 2 years, you can have a blooming plant, no matter if it's Cymbidium or Cattleya, but sometimes maybe not. And sometimes maybe you can have them bloom in the very same year. It's all a lottery, like a box of chocolates. So I will say this is false, simply because I don't like these generalized blanket statements. Next up, Rakshit, I did see you sent in a lot of myths in the past. I'm gonna get through them, don't you worry, and thank you for sending me so many ideas. Alright, so they're saying all single-leafed Cattleya pseudobulbs produce sheaths and buds every time. Wait, when I read that one I understood something else, but I understand it now. And the answer is false. So this is a bifoliate Cattleya. Let me find a unifoliate one, maybe a tiny one. Alright, so this is a unifoliate Cattleya. It is the Elizabeth Fulton Mikkel. I received this one from a lovely viewer 6 years ago, I think. It did not bloom so far. I keep waiting. It's one of those that grows slow, and I think that I keep stressing it. I like to blame myself because in this way I can control it, you know? But I don't know. So, as you can see, this one is a unifoliate Cattleya. Do we see any sheaths remains in the past? No. Do we see any flower spike remains in the past? No. Is this orchid even mature? I don't know. I have it for so many years. It has never grown taller than this, but maybe it's just not vigorous. Maybe I set it back, or maybe it is actually mature because we can see all of these pseudobulbs, and even the new one, they kind of grow to the same size, and this orchid has never been bigger. And this one actually last year tried to produce something here, but the new growth is not producing anything as far as I can see. So here we go. For the past 6 years, not only this one did not bloom, but also there is no sheath inside. Even if it's mature, it's not a given that they will produce sheaths. Sometimes they will, and the sheaths will be blank, meaning no flower spike or buds will develop inside. Sometimes they will produce a sheath with buds, and sometimes even unifoliate Cattleyas will produce buds directly, like the Hawaiian splash Leia. And again, it is a very generalized statement that they will always produce sheaths. It is not true. There are so many varieties, hybrids and species that you really cannot make this blanket statement about any of them. Even if you can observe a little trend with 50% of them, you still cannot generalize. So yeah, now here's a unifoliate that has no buds and no sheaths for the past 6 years, and we're still just hoping that one day, because the flowers should be spectacular if you Google them. I don't even know if it's mislabeled. We'll see. Viviana is asking me to debunk a myth, maybe it's truth. Aloe vera used to produce keikis on orchid spikes. Now, I've heard about this before. I think I can find another comment from somebody asking that. Well, my answer will have to be anecdotal. I cannot say if it's true or false, but as far as the research shows, aloe vera does contain some plant hormones, and as far as I can see, it's auxins and gibberellins. Well, the thing is, in order to create a growth on an orchid, we also need cytokinins. All right, why? Because auxins, they are responsible with determining elongation of tissue or cells, and cytokinins are responsible with the division of cells. Both of these together work to create the growth of that particular node. In keiki paste and probably other hormonal pastes that are used to produce growths, we usually have both of these hormones. All of the sources I find on the internet are rather anecdotal. There are many such things as, oh, this type of plant has this effect, but do we use it? No, because it's just not efficient enough. We need stronger stuff and more specialized stuff to determine a outcome. I don't believe it's efficient enough to use instead of a keiki paste. If you wanna try it out, I think it's fun to try it out. You know how I am, me and non-scientifical stuff, you know, we're not good friends. But that's for me. If I would have to choose between keiki paste that has a list of ingredients and aloe vera that I have to buy and try to find and so on, I will go with the keiki paste because I know what it has inside. Up to you though. Nick is asking, orchids that have a dormancy should not be watered, not at all, until spring. True or false? Well, that is true. However, we are talking about true dormancy plants. There are some plants which kind of take a break from active growth but do prepare buds, such as the Dendrobium nobile. Those orchids, even though they don't actively grow anymore, they still have green leaves, and typically when they still have green leaves, it means the plant is functioning actively, and it needs sun, it needs some water. On the other hand, think about many Cymbidiums. They lose all of their leaves and they do nothing. You can cut the roots, even the roots die off. You can put them under a bench and not think about them until spring. Not all Cymbidiums, but many of them do. So yeah, if we're talking about a true dormancy plant, there is absolutely no need to water in case you're cutting the roots because they're gone anyway. There's really no point in watering, but there are many orchids which do not go into dormancy. They just do not actively grow vegetatively anymore, but prepare buds. Water might still be needed, even though in very, very little quantities. Cymbidiums and maybe other plants that I don't know of, other orchids that go into a true dormancy. They don't photosynthesize, they don't do anything, they just prepare new growth with the energy stored in their pseudobulbs. And yes, those should not be watered because you might actually rot the pseudobulbs. They don't need the water at all, they cannot even absorb it. Adriana is asking, myth or truth, you should stop fertilizing orchids that have flower spikes and buds on them. Yeah, well, this is the thing that I heard about before I got into the hobby a lot. So to that I will have to say false. There is absolutely no reason to not fertilize orchids in bloom. They're not dormant, they still grow. Many orchids will still grow roots as they bloom. Many orchids will still grow actively new shoots. In the case of Cymbidiums, some Phalaenopsis grow new leaves in the same time as they bloom. Sometimes they will not. It does take splitting of their energy to account for all of these expenses, let's say, so they might grow slower, absolutely true, but they still grow. And as long as orchids and any other plant actively grows vegetative structures, which can be roots, pseudobulbs, leaves, and so on, they need fertilizer. They need to sustain that growth with nutrients. Yes, they can still have built up nutrients inside their structures, but what if it's not enough? Particularly when they bloom, they consume a lot. So to me, it's especially important if an orchid grows vegetatively and blooms at the same time to continue fertilizer and sustain all of that growth and blooming. Even though nutrients don't directly, let's say, feed anything, it's the sap that results after photosynthesis, this is what feeds them, nutrients are still super needed in the composition of chlorophyll and other pigments and other structures, and also in regulating their functions like breathing. So they are very important because imagine if an orchid cannot breathe properly. How are we gonna grow our flowers and structures? You know, everything is connected. So yeah, for me it's a big myth. I don't know who came up with it, but it makes no sense. Big G Gamer is asking, is it true that you shouldn't fertilize orchids for a month after repotting? We're sticking in the fertilizer realm. Okay, again, remember, this is my personal opinion. That would be true. And I'll give you the logic explanation for that. When you repot an orchid, you might have noticed that for about a month, maybe more, maybe less, but I would generalize, let's say, to a month as being a safe period for most orchids. In that particular month, you don't see abundant growth and all sorts of flower spikes emerging and everything. Even though the orchid, yes, still grows, and most importantly, it has to grow roots, they're very important, they don't grow all that fast. And that's because the orchid takes a little bit of time to adjust to your environment, maybe the day and night cycle in your room. Can you imagine some of these orchids are imported from the other side of the globe? That sounded weird. The other hemisphere, okay? You might be in the northern hemisphere and some of these orchids are coming from the southern hemisphere. Day and night is switched there, so they have to get adjusted to the day and night cycle here. They have to get adjusted to the quantity of light. How about the humidity? Is it different than where we come from? Okay, we need to specialize a little bit the leaves to get adjusted to all of this change. There are so many changes an orchid can go through that growth is slow in the first month after repotting. That's for new orchids. For not so new orchids, things might be less than 1 month, actually, maybe 2 weeks or so, because they're already adjusted to your growing environment. Still, I like to allocate 1 month, time in which, they're not gonna be depleted of nutrients most probably. I like to allocate a month in which I will not use fertilizer. Because one, most probably it will go to waste since the orchid is slowed down until she figures out, okay, how is this medium? How am I gonna grow? What is this day and night cycle? And second, if there is excess, if the nutrients are not absorbed, they can build up and they can burn fresh new root tips. And when you repot an orchid, most of the times, it is important to have those new root tips be absolutely okay and get the orchid established in its new pot, particularly with orchids that don't have roots. So there are some orchids which benefit from this, in my opinion, more than others, yes. But am I going to pick and choose everything? Again, there are too many orchids to just remember everything. I remember this one I just repotted, okay, I'm gonna skip fertilizer for a little while. Is it a new orchid? Is it an old orchid? How old is it in my collection? Did I transfer it from a different type of medium or not? Too many details for my brain. if I repot it, I'm not gonna fertilize it for a month and nothing bad will happen, just to be safe, and that's my rule. So yeah, that's why I will say that this is true, because for me, it has a lot of benefits. It doesn't have drawbacks really. 1 month of no fertilization is not going to cause any real meaningful deficiency. If you continue not to fertilize over a month, that can get a little bit more risky, but a month is absolutely fine, has no risks, has only benefits. Why shouldn't you do it, you know? So for me, it's absolute truth. And I think that is about enough for today. I have more. Stay tuned for the next episode. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you've enjoyed this. Hope you learned something new. And if you have myths for me to debunk, leave them down below and I'll try to debunk as many as I possibly can in the next episode. So again, thank you for watching. Thank you rePotme for sponsoring yet another episode from this series that I really like. I love debunking myths. And if you want to see more orchid videos, just subscribe to my channel. If you're into other types of plants and maybe even aquariums, check out my second channel. It's always linked down below in the description if you scroll down. Maybe you're gonna like that too. And with that said, I'll see you all next time. Bye!